Hello and welcome to another episode of the Fully Charged Show podcast, coming to you from lovely, sunny, balmy Australia. Yes, I know, I'm very lucky. I'm very aware of it. It's not too hot today. It's very, very pleasantly warm. How annoying is that to hear if you're not in Australia? Today's guest on the Fully Charged Show podcast is Jason Clarke, and he runs a company called TrueEV, and they are the Australian distributors for XPeng cars. XPeng, I'm not going to say anything about it because I learnt so much on this. I just want you to learn what I learnt about these new Chinese companies, because they're very new and they're making amazing cars. And I am very, very privileged to not only be in Australia, but literally outside this house, there is an XPeng G6 plugged into the solar panels on the roof, charging and ready to go. So that is very nice. And we're about to do quite a big road trip in it, which I'm really looking forward to. And Jason clearly knows a lot about China, what's going on in China. He spent a lot of time there. He's been, he was there when the cities were full of choking toxic gas, and he's there now. As you can hear, this gang of birds have just gone completely doolally out in the garden. Sadly, not a kookaburra, which would be very, very on message, but no, these are lovely little parroty fellas. Yeah, all right, guys, I'm trying to record a podcast introduction. Do you mind? Oh my God, just calm down. Anyway, I won't go on. Please do welcome the very well-informed Jason Clarke to the Fully Charged Show podcast. Love the Everything Electric show? Then join us live in Sydney in March, or London in April, or in Vancouver, Farnborough and Melbourne in September, October and November 2025. So Jason, thank you so much for joining us on the Fully Charged Show podcast. Really interesting time to come back to Australia. I had a long gap when I couldn't come, COVID and work and economics and everything. So I missed, I think, the beginning of the change, because I saw this remarkable change from, say, 2018 to like 2023. That was the gap that I wasn't here. I mean, in terms of electric vehicles on the road, really noticeable jump, and charging infrastructure. Those two things had really changed. I mean, could you just do the history of what you're doing with TrueEV and how that ties in with that shift?
Yeah, no, that's right. And thanks for having me today. Thank you. I think what you've just said is really what started the inspiration for TrueEV. So back 2018, 2018-19, there were practically no EVs on the roads. And I think Tesla, I can remember walking into the Westfield Bondi forecourt, and there was Tesla Model S, and I thought, whatever that is, I want one. That was only 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And so Teslas came here. There was only a few. There was no infrastructure whatsoever. They got by, and they were very noticeable on the streets, and very noticeable at the charge stations, because you'd have a whole queue of Tesla Model S's. Yeah. People having a chat group, so it was like a whole communities were being built. So that I noticed that, but then so after COVID, we've seen a steady build. The penetration rate's still only 10% of all new cars are EVs, so it's still very low. But the nature of the Australian car buyer, I mean, the top three selling cars in Australia are the Ford Ranger Ute, the Toyota Hilux Ute, and the Isuzu Ute. That gives you the mentality of an Australian car buyer. And then I think it's the Toyota RAV4 sort of mid-size SUV at a good price. But we've started to see now real adoption of EVs. I think people are seeing the infrastructure more and more. But what's exciting for us is that although we're bringing one brand in, the XPeng Chinese EV, into Australia, we're starting to see some really interesting cars on the road, like very, very different. So Tesla's still leading. BYD, fast follower there.
Second,
a lot of MGs that we see in space. Also Polestar. But now we're starting to see XPeng G6 on the road. the Zeekr, Deepal, and all these other brands with very compelling cars. So we'll see quite a bit of change coming up, I think.
Right. But so truly, you're just focused on XPeng. Is that you only do one? You're only dealing with one brand. Is that correct? Or?
Well, the launch of TrueEV, what we wanted to do was build a electric or an EV lifestyle brand. That's how we started out. So we saw that we would have cars, motorbikes, motorcycles, jet skis. Pretty much electric transportation. So that was what we started to do, as well as accessories and merchandise for that lifestyle. So picture Bunnings. You'd be familiar with Bunnings. But here in Australia,
I know Bunnings.
Or Bunnings or Officeworks, but for EVs, for EV lifestyle.
Right, I see, right.
That was the thinking when we started the business.
Yeah.
And then we did research for what would be a compelling brand for Australia to launch TrueEV. And so we went to China and we found about 110 EV brands in China. Right. And someone said, "Oh, Jason, that's rubbish. There's more like 210.
Yeah.
There were, that's over 2 years ago, there were brands of EVs in China. It's aggregating now because they're maturing in terms of their market. So that there's probably 100 and something now, and that will only aggregate and get smaller as their market matures. But we came across XPeng. We pitched for the deal for us to bring them in Australia, and we're now exclusive to XPeng. So we live and breathe XPeng in Australia.
Right, which is fantastic. So, and what is the range of their cars then? So I know that because I test drove. Oh, I see. I have trouble remembering numbers and letters with cars because, I have driven quite a few now. But the one that's I loved it. The saloon car, is that a G7?
The saloon, like the sedan, the Ford. Yeah, that was a P7.
P7. I beg your pardon. Because I've test driven that in the UK and I was blown away by it. It was, it's very hard to judge in 2.5, 3 hours of driving, which is all we had. It was a press car, but boy, it was a really wonderful machine.
Yeah, we've got a demonstrator or an evaluation P7 here, left-hand drive in Australia. So, that is a really great car. Sedan. Australians love their SUVs though. So
yes, that's very obvious.
We are planning to bring the P7. It's now the P7 Plus is the latest iteration. So just to help you with your numbers and letters.
Thank you.
So the P7 Plus to go with the G6 and the X9. Yeah. So the thing about XPeng is obviously they're building aspirational vehicles. Good. The quality of manufacture is amazing. The design.
It's amazing. Yeah.
But all that aside, XPeng is known for their technology. So they're a technology company first and foremost, with a focus on AI. So the driver experience in these cars is starting to develop really quickly as the car is about the conditions, about what's happening externally. Yeah. Because of the large number of cameras that it has on board and the investment in really fast processors and processing, process the images and the information to give you a fantastic driving experience.
No, it is. Having I've driven the G6 now, a total of, I think, 23 kilometres.
The greatest really 23 kilometres you could ever have, Robert.
I could ever have. But what was, I think that's the one thing, I think it's kind of universal, but the one thing that's just shockingly good is the speed of response of the screen when you're looking, you can't even see it do it. You press navigation and it's the map. And I said, because I couldn't work out how to open the charge port. So I just said, XPeng, open the charge. I think I said, open the charge port. And I didn't even know. And the thing just opened. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah, I had no idea you could do that. And its response was so instantaneous. It was amazing. And then every time I've got out of the car, it said, you've left your mobile phone in the car.
Do you know how many times that saved me?
Yes, because I'd forgotten. No, I had left it in there. Yeah. And also, the other thing, I know
if only if it said you left your phone in the pub or something.
Yes, that would be better. Yes.
That's good enough.
Yeah, but the other one, which I was very impressed with, is that there's cooling air around your phone when it's on the charger. which I just think, well, that is damn, because they're always hot, especially in Australia. Your phone can get very hot. Not in an XPeng. That was a thing.
I mean,
but then
the features, Robert, like we've got like a G6, cheat sheet of all the features and so on. But until you actually get in and start using the car, and if you're inquisitive, these functions, but the speed of refresh and how it really is, that's mind-boggling.
It is really noticeable. But then, I mean, I think I would love to sort of go wider. I mean, I'm very happy to rave on about, and I will be raving on about the G6, I'm sure. I won't be able to stop myself. But what's fascinating is there is a kind of, from a European perspective, quite a unique position that Australia holds as a car country because of, largely because of China. So we're now getting some of the cars you've had here for a while in Europe, in general, in the UK, not in the US. I think we all know that's not going to happen. I mean, it's remarkable. Whenever we do review a Chinese car on the Fully Charged show, the amount of Americans who say, "I wish we could get that in my country." Is impressive. It's a lot. But I mean, that is because you no longer have, okay, I'll do it as quickly as I can. When I first came here, I think there was still a manufacturing base. Holden and Ford were still making cars in Australia.
They were,
and that's gone. And now there's repurposing and various things that there is an industry around the car market in Australia. But you're importing 99% of the cars, I'm sure, aren't you, in various forms?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, back in the day, there was a car industry here in Australia, and, we're a small country. There's only 23 million people here. A lot of jokes you could have right there.
Yeah.
We had a car industry, and as a small country, we can win Olympic medals.
Yes, amazingly well. Yeah,
but we can't manufacture cars efficiently or economically.
Yeah.
Forget that. Just stick to winning Olympic medals, maybe. But those industries just died here, and they were always plagued with industrial action and strikes.
Right.
It was just terrible. So we even had, I think, Mitsubishi and even Nissan manufacturing here as well, and they've closed down.
Oh, I didn't know. Okay, wow.
So there's literally no domestic industry to protect. So people speak to me, Jason, are you worried about tariffs and those sorts of things? Well, we're aware, but there's no local industry to protect. So 99.9% of cars that you see on the road have all been imported. Whereas in the US, what?
That was a big industry.
Detroit Car City. If there's problems with that industry, GM, Ford, and on you go. Wholesale unemployment and trouble. They do have to protect those industries. And then you look at what's coming from China, where their ability to deploy tens of thousands of people to a project quickly with high quality manufacture and output. It seems Western countries, US, Australia, Europe, just can't do that anymore. And so, European car manufacturers, that have a history of being leaders, the US, really under pressure. It happened before. It happened with Japanese manufacture.
Yes, it
happened
it is very similar, isn't it? Except for, I suppose the big difference is, even though those companies are huge, like Nissan, Toyota, obviously, Mitsubishi from Japan, who did come to made a massive impact in the United States and in Europe and here, a huge impact here. But if you actually think of it, Japan's quite a small country with quite a small population in comparison with China, which is huge, with huge manufacturing base now. And, it's just the scale of it is the great story I love, and I'll do it very quickly, is we had an email about 8-9 years ago from Leicester City Council in the UK, and they sent us a photograph of the mayor standing proudly by the city's first all-electric bus, and there was a lovely picture of the mayor, and he's standing by the door of the electric bus. And then we later learnt on the same day in Shenzhen in China, 17,000 diesel buses were taken off the road and replaced with 17,000 electric buses made by BYD, who made the bus that was in Leicester. You know, you just go, the scale of it, the scale of what they're capable of is
it is
just staggering, isn't it?
I was looking at January production figures, and BYD delivered 300,000 cars in January 2025. So,
in 1 month. Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, people, you hear those stats, you go, yeah. But if you sort of picture 300,000 cars on docks or on ships, like it's
thousands of acres of cars, yeah.
And going back to the Australia, we're a small country, so we account for 1% of car sales globally, which is which is significant.
Yeah. Yes, it's measurable. Yeah,
measurable. I think it's 10 million cars. No, it's 1.5 million new cars.
Right.
It is. Excuse me. But, going back to an XPeng, anecdote, I was at their dealer conference last year, and I was dinner next to a XPeng executive, and he headed up the AI division.
Right.
Intelligence, and I asked him, I go, how many in your team? And he just casually said 800.
Wow.
So again, if I was in Sydney trying to corral 800 AI tech heads, get to 8, and then it would sort of run pretty thin. So,
yes.
And then what? Even if I found 800, and if I tried to deploy them on a united mission, I would have no chance.
Oh my God, it is staggering, isn't it? I mean, I think that is it's really in your face here, because I sort of, when I was here last year, I suddenly went, oh my God, that's, a big pickup truck. That's not by General Motors or Ford or Volkswagen or a European maker or a Japanese maker. It was a GWM, it said on the Great Wall Motors, Chinese. But it's a massive, I've seen a few of them now, massive pickup truck, like a proper United States big hefty pickup truck made in China. And I'm sure it was diesel or petrol, I don't know, but it wasn't electric. But they're selling a lot of cars that because I'm focused on the electric market, then I'm very aware of those brands. But then there's other brands that are exporting cars to here that I don't even know about.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I mean, these new vehicles are appealing to customers in a different way. So we've talked about comfort, range, immediacy, the screens.
Yeah.
And just that feeling of technology and safety and fun is really how these new manufacturers are designing and deploying their technology in the cars. It's very, very different to try and appeal to the new consumer who wants some bespoke attributes or features of the car, that they want some personalization, but they want these comfort and tech, and want to feel also that they're making a difference to the environment with an eco car in terms of noise pollution, air pollution. So I was explaining this to a friend here, and you were talking about the large trucks, and I was showing him this. It's the XPeng X9, which is the 7-seater, and I was showing the lie flat bed with the in-seat massage, and how you could change the mood from citrus to cedar, and it was from aromatherapy oil, while it had a little fridge and a pop-down TV. And my friend said, have you seen my Ram truck? So we went to see the Ram. As we approached the Ram truck, he ignited it with his key, so the rumble of the Hemi V8, it was rumbling, and he said, that's nothing. But it was really well appointed. But he said, that's not all. This is direct from the US. We've done the left-hand to right-hand drive, but look at this at the back, and at the back there was a gun cabinet in the side of the Ram truck where you could store, say, your assault weapons. So that's it's very, very different to aromatherapy and in-seat massage in terms of
slightly at the other end of the scale, isn't it? That is just that. The thing is that it's so not surprising. I should be surprised and aghast as a POM hearing about gun cabinets in American pickup trucks, but you just go, yeah, whatever, that's what they do.
Well, I saw it with my own eyes. So that legacy. I mean, it's a exaggeration, but that's legacy manufacturer design compared to over-the-air updates of the newest technology and features. It's very, very different.
Yeah, I mean, because the thing that I think also sets this country apart is well, I've been hearing so much about it, the impact of solar. So what has happened in the solar market, domestic rooftop solar, has changed the way the grid operates in Australia to a degree that we're just beginning to see a hint of in the UK. But I mean, I was really surprised by New Zealand. Very low solar take up in New Zealand. I mean, it was not as common.
Wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, I was really surprised, but it's not. I mean, it's starting now. People are working it out, but
it's pretty widespread.
I mean,
Australia because
it's pretty widespread here. Yeah, I mean, I like to do an I Spy thing when we drive past a lot of houses on a road. You try and see the house without solar panels. Occasionally you'll see one, but it's pretty rare. I mean, it's so. Well, I can't remember what it is, but it's the total gigawatt output of solar in midday in Australia is like. I can't even remember what it is. I did see it the other day. It's lots of gigawatts. It's like 70 gigawatts. It's more electricity than Australia can use at any one time, which is kind of a clue that there's something going on a big way. But I mean, is that something that comes up in discussion with your customers and your clients regarding electric cars? You know, they're making that connection with solar and...
Look, it really surprising, Robert. So we've done a number of exhibitions in Melbourne and Sydney where we've had the full range of XPeng cars in a big...
Right.
Let's say the electric SUV expo in Melbourne, where 20,000 people might come by over a long weekend to look at the newest cars in the EV space. And I mean, we've done a lot of market research on what I thought the typical, smart XPeng driver might be, or owner.
Yeah.
And then I was met with at the expo people more, let's say my generation, which really surprised me, and not just a few. I mean, I would say predominantly older male and females who were looking to be almost energy neutral in home. So having solar panels, having in home charger, driving an EV, and basically having no cost for the EV electricity.
For refueling, effectively, yeah.
Yeah, so that was the first thing. But then the next thing was how a lot of them had been working through it, and they were trying to get from, convert that back from car to load. So then, like charging the car battery and then using the car to run the
house,
and then even further back to put energy back into the grid. So that really surprised me. There's a big community of Australians that have that way of thinking, and I see it. I'm now seeing it more and more, and as we've got more and more customers, and there's about 10,000 on our sort of mailing list and community groups that are asking us questions, and the number, it's thousands of people even in our community that are looking to do these things, which I didn't see coming, I've got to say.
But
it's really interesting, very creative. The way that these people are thinking, and ways that they can run, cost neutral on energy.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's the challenge in effect to the traditional way of doing things. So if you think of even just the transition from a combustion engine to an electric motor, that the infrastructure and the logistics of supplying liquid fuel is huge and complex and expensive, and we've been doing it for decades, so it's all sorted out and you don't have to think about it, and there's just petrol that comes out of a pump. But that took decades to build and billions of dollars to build, and we're now going, well, we want to do it like this, which completely undermines the whole industry. I mean, it throws the power industry out, it throws the fossil fuel industry. I mean, it's a big disruptive change that I think really is galvanized around vehicle to load, or in whatever way, vehicle to house or vehicle to grid, is the kind of point where I feel there's a kind of tipping point in that, because that once people understand that, they go, oh. So it's like running your house from your car. There's a switch that goes off in people's brains, and they go, oh, I get that. Oh, right, that sounds good. I like that.
Yeah, look, I find when I talk to people about it now, I know they're listening, and they're understanding. Oh yeah, it makes sense. But until you really get into what's happening here and what you would know now the cost of energy in Australia is, phenomenal. So
Yeah.
it's really expensive. And so if you can make changes on that, sort of in the household and then on the road, it's thousands a month. Really.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It can be. That's the difficulty of the thing that happened in the UK that was really interesting when we had the massive price spike in our energy costs after Putin invaded his neighboring country for whatever reason he had. Everyone understood. There was no argument about it. I saw no debate about it. It was understood that the reason the electricity price had gone up was because of gas. It wasn't offshore wind or solar that made electricity more expensive. It was gas, and that has stayed with us. Because that's all our, other than wind, solar, nuclear. We're gas. That's what powers the UK, and it's so the peak loads are always covered with gas if there's low renewables, because we don't burn coal anymore. But what was interesting was that became a common general understanding, rather than energy nerds like me going, yeah, but it's the gas that made it more expensive. I didn't have to say that anymore. They all knew. That was really encouraging. Do you feel that consciousness is here? Because that's what's happened. The reason electricity is expensive is not because of wind turbines and rooftop solar in Australia.
No. Look, it's usually a significant event, often negative, that jolts to coming up with a very useful or unique original outcome. So I certainly saw that when I used to live in Melbourne. There was drought and water shortage,
right?
Water rationing, and then you couldn't water your garden or wash your car on certain days of the week, and this was not that long ago. And then sort of thinking, and then a downpour would come, and you see it hit the roofs, down the gutters, down the pipes, and into the rivers and oceans. And it's sort of like, oh, hang on, why all this water waste? And then that sort of led to, the development of, compulsory water tanks, water storage tanks in new buildings. Started to see it like a response to the problem. But then you have a decade of nothing but rain. And it's not
so typical.
But that day may come again, Robert. So
it might do. I have to say, pretty much every time I've ever been to Melbourne, it's pouring with rain. It does seem to do it quite a lot.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. No, you carry on if you had a point.
No, so I was saying with EVs, I'm, despite what I'm doing and what I'm leading now, I was pretty slow to the EV market, but I'm starting to see all the applications and the lifestyle and the impact that it's making. We can talk about these small things, and the EV penetration rate being around 10% of new cars. But I travelled to China. You talked about Shenzhen, where the penetration of EVs on new cars is about 80% now. Guangzhou, I think that's about 70%, and I think 40% of all cars across China are EVs now. That's a fundamental change. I went to Guangzhou, say 10 years ago, and the air quality, it was terrible. It was, it burnt your eyes. It was loud, chaotic, and a mess. And it's as many people live in Australia, pretty much in that city. So it's intense. But I go there now. That's where XPeng headquarters are. You look on your phone and look at Guangzhou air quality index. It's excellent.
Wow.
And when you go there now, it's clear. Motorbikes, ice motorbikes are banned from the centre.
Oh, they're actually banned. They banned them, so you're not allowed to use them at all.
The city centre is clear, crisp, and good quality air. Like, it's completely transformed. Luckily, the chaos is still there.
Yes,
but it's
just quieter and cleaner chaos.
It's just not burning your eyes.
Because that's a thing I've always said about electric vehicles. I always say, it's an extraordinary change and there's a big thing. But I said, if you're in a big traffic jam with 500 electric cars, it's exactly the same as a big traffic jam with 500 petrol cars. It just smells better. That's the big difference.
That's it. If you get out of your car to, combat the traffic, it's you're tasting better air. But look, it is transformational, but you don't know it until you really see it. You can read all the stats. You can have all the debates about, the amount of oil-based materials in an EV. And you can have that all day, every day, but until you see the impact in these countries where the take-up is high, you don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, there was very good news from London not long before I left the UK about air quality in London, and it was really pretty much entirely down to buses and taxis. So now a huge number of the taxis are electric, and a very big number of the buses. I think I can't remember. It's a big chunk of the total bus fleet is now fully electric, and no one knows because they look exactly the same. They're double-decker red buses.
Robert, how long ago was that in, say, central London that you...
Oh, that was like before Christmas, I think. And it's very noticeable change because there was a very famous case about, I can't remember, in the last 10 years, maybe 5 years ago, of a very young child she died of an asthma attack when she was about 9 years old. Really tragic case, and she lived very near a really busy road in London, and her asthma attacks blended perfectly with high levels of air pollution, and so she's the first human being in the UK who's on her death certificate says died due to local air pollution. So that kind of got in the news. It became a big story, and I think it sort of pushed people to think, and it pushed the government in London, the local authority in London, to really push hard to go as electric as they could.
Yeah. No, it's you don't really notice a difference because it's gradual, and then all of a sudden it's there. So it is really profound from what I've witnessed myself.
Yeah. One of the questions I wanted to ask you is, well, I mean, it's clearly because you've obviously been there a lot, and I'm hoping to go to China this year for the first time. I've never been, but it is if we can briefly discuss the kind of impact that it's having, because there's so many stories that I always want to filter them out. But one of the stories I recently seen was, due to the tariffs from the Trump government, is a gift to China, because it's like China's going to, I mean, it's so hard not to see China winning the battle for, industrial dominance in the world, if you like, because it always was America, and you could argue Europe in a strong second place. But it really does seem to have shifted to such a degree that China is the kind of key industrial force in the world.
Yeah, as I was saying before, like there's more than 200 electric vehicle brands you've never heard of, and they're not new. They're 10 years old. I would say so China as a generalization in terms of design and manufacture of EVs across a spectrum of different outcome. Your buses, cars, bikes, jet skis, skateboards. More than 10 years ago. The battery tech, what new advancements there, materials, recyclable material, literally a decade or more ahead. The population have adopted it. The low, high quality, low cost, has always been, you're always learnt in marketing it doesn't exist. You can find some terrible brands in China. Don't worry about that. There's some very very cheap electric vehicle products. I would not be bringing them here. They wouldn't meet our standards. But as a generalization, they had to do something. The cities were appalling, and they had to move, and so they did a long time ago. They can deploy large groups of people that will work towards a common cause quickly and well. The design, the quality of the manufacturer is state of the art. Not everywhere, but from the leading companies, and it's brought a lot of fun to the auto industry. It's, you land, you're on the freeway, and you look at all these cars you have never seen before. They've all got green license plates. and green is starting to, outnumber the blue. So it's a good time, and they're there. I mean, it happened with Japanese imports. It's like it'll never happen, and then Japanese cars, Toyota, Mazda, Nissan, Mitsubishi, dominant. Then Korean, Hyundai, Kia. It looks like just a new season. It's Chinese manufactured vehicles, and we'll talk about tariffs and data theft and sorts of things. But it's too far gone, Robert. It's
I think it was perfectly justifiable for disgruntled European and American car makers because to point and go, they just copied us. For a time, I think that was perfectly fair. But what you see now is, they did copy you, but they moved on. They didn't stop there. They then made that better. They made the copy better than the original. And that's a pretty big challenge for the Europeans and Americans. I mean, it's...
Look, the technology bed and the construction and manufacture quality is completely different. The thing I don't like is you can see the influence of certain shapes and designs.
Right. Yes.
That is a copy of a shape. I don't like that. I like even some of the boxy Chinese EVs. They're quite confronting to look at, but I like that. I'm all for that diversity in the design. I mean, school pickup. I'm in the traffic. I'm in a left-hand drive XPeng evaluation vehicle, and I was telling my kid, "Hey, look around." Right. Yeah. So we're stuck in. You can see 20 cars, let's say, and you've got V8, you've got your Land Cruisers, you've got your Mini, and then you've got 2 or 3 different EVs, all in this, all doing the same thing, taking their kids to school. And it's just, the diversity is amazing. Like, it's a really, but I would say right now, Volkswagen is a very large investor in XPeng. They wanted to secure technology. They could probably get there themselves, but it's going to take years. So I think they invested like 1.5 billion US in XPeng to secure.
And that's investing in them in China. I mean, actually, for their Chinese manufacturing.
Yes, as a lead shareholder. So XPeng, interestingly, dual listed. They're listed on the New York Stock Exchange as well as the Hong Kong Stock Exchange.
Right.
So, that's good strategy for them. They've got mum and dad investors in the US.
Isn't that amazing? But and I'm assuming you can't buy an XPeng in the US at the moment.
Not at the moment.
Because that was one of the things when I picked up the car this morning was a brief discussion with the team there about that you got 70 cars and they were all immediately delivered to customers, and you've got another load coming very soon, and they'll all go out to customers. So there's enough demand for you to import sort of shiploads of cars. I mean, but one of the little things we mentioned, I think because it's the elephant in the room at the moment. A certain CEO of a certain company has become a very big public figure, and I'm certainly aware of people who have traded in their Teslas for other brands, and I was hearing that sort of off the record this morning. But is that something that I'm very happy for you not to talk about it if you don't want to, because it is difficult, but it's such a big story. It's very hard to kind of ignore it, and it's going to affect the market in general. I mean, their sales are down. There's no question about it.
Look, things have changed, and it has turned around, but I think people think it happens really quickly.
Yeah.
But it takes years and years for a fundamental shift, like ICE cars to EV to happen. But things are tough. The cost of living in Australia is pretty hard. But look, we traded in a 2-year-old Porsche Cayenne V8. Variant S, Cayenne S, for like $177,000 to trade in on a $55,000 XPeng G6.
Right.
It does the same thing. It's not much smaller.
No. It's a very roomy car. It's very spacious. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the guy could have bought 3. He could have traded in for 3, but just one. But the running cost and the differential, and I think it's like frying pan in the face moment.
Yes, it's pretty obvious. Yeah. Well, it's also that, I mean, I don't know what the fuel consumption is of a V8 Porsche SUV, but I've got a feeling it's not modest. It's quite greedy, I would imagine.
If you used it, just on regular trips to work, you'd be up to probably $250 every 2 weeks or so, 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I'd say. Yeah.
And even with expensive electricity, $250 goes. You go a long way on $250 worth of electricity. Let's be honest.
Yes, I do.
So, because I have interviewed one of the founders of XPeng, but it was a long time ago, so I can't remember. I don't know how long they've been going. Exactly.
XPeng just celebrated late last year, 10-year anniversary.
Right. But actually, if you think in terms of sort of the old, the very well-established brands in, Mercedes is over 100 years old, and they're very successful and they make amazing cars. But in 10 years, that company's gone from nothing to making really sophisticated, beautifully made cars. That is bonkers. I can't. It's only 10 years now. Wow.
Yeah, that's since inception. That's from 3 guys sitting around going, "What do you reckon?
Wow.
How about it?"
Wow.
To
Yeah.
delivering to more than 30 countries.
Wow.
6-car range. It's phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Yeah, that is extraordinary. Wow. I mean, also it's just mind-boggling, because that's one of the things I've learned over the last few years is the amount of engineers, production line engineers, people who build production lines and design cars and design transmission systems. They've all worked in China. In the last 20 years, maybe for 2 or 3 years, they've all been hired on very reasonable wages, and they've given their skill and experience to, and it's been very well received. Clearly, it's done the job, because they're doing very well.
I mean, I think that's what you've got to do if you want to move up. We call it China time. So
right.
I holidayed in Fiji recently, and I had Skype meeting or something, and I asked the barman at the resort where I was staying what time it was, and he looked at me and went, like, "Come on, man." And he said, like, "It's Fiji time."
Right.
Which, so now the opposite of that is China time. You can get anything done, but it's the urgency and the speed.
Yes.
The age of poor quality manufacture because it's cheap. It's still there, but in high value consumer goods, it's over. It's the opposite.
It's over, yeah.
But you don't know. Like if to someone unknown, if they get into an XPeng G6, it's a Chinese design and manufacture V. You would have the typical Australian would have a mental picture that is not a high quality vehicle.
Exactly, and get it. Well, they wouldn't know it was. If you just got in it, you wouldn't know. Yeah.
But it's our job to get people in them. So
yeah. Well, it sounds like you're doing. It sounds like you're doing all right.
So
you're getting them in,
Robert. Yeah. But look, the feedback has been amazing because it's an easy to be negative, but feedback has been phenomenal. Like on this, what it stands for, the quality, and the enjoyment of the. And it's true to its promise, so we're very happy.
Brilliant. Jason, thank you so much for taking time to talk to us, because it has been
Robert,
a fascinating.
Good to have a chat. Thank you. Speak to you soon.
All right. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Well, that's all we got time for. Sorry, I was slightly distracted during the introduction. The birds have calmed down a bit now. There's another one just going a bit barking. Oh, look, now they've gone mad again. Anyway, that's all. Not going to go on. Do check out the Everything Electric show in Sydney on the 7th, 8th and 9th of March. The links to all the topics that we discuss are in the show notes. And as always, please do subscribe. Please tell your mates. And if you have been, thank you for watching.